What's up guys, welcome back to another tutorial, and for today's video we're going to be drawing Alucard from Hellsing. Before we begin, let's go over the materials that we'll be using in this video. First off, some drawing paper, some drawing pencils, an eraser, a precision eraser, some color pencils, some pastels, and of course the Copic markers. Or you could just draw the whole thing with a drawing pencil, and in my opinion it would look just as good. Since I'm not familiar with this art style, I didn't have much of a strategy for how I was going to begin this sketch. The best thing to do in these situations is to just start drawing and hope for the best. You'll notice starting off that everything is going in the same direction, towards the lower right corner of the page. Now that we started drawing the inside of his face, you'll notice that everything is going in the opposite direction, towards the upper right corner of his face. Use the red guidelines to help make sure everything is aligned properly. It took me a couple tries to get the jaw right, but that's pretty normal. You want to put an extra effort here, otherwise it's going to mess up the rest of the drawing. We'll start drawing the bottom of his hat a good distance above the bridge of his nose, and we'll draw his eye right on top of his nose. His eyes, mouth, and jaw should be going generally in the same direction. Now I'm going to go through everything again and fine-tune all the small details. We can skip through this part. As you can see, after going through it the second time, there's a significant improvement across the board. If you want to improve your art, you have to go over the face 2 times. The first time will be a rough draft, and the second time will be your final draft. Drawing the gun is going to be a challenge, at least it was for me, so it might be a good idea to do a few drafts for this as well. Now we have a good idea of how our drawing is going to look like, and where everything is going to fit in. For the rest of the sketching process, we'll focus on filling in the details, starting with his tie, then moving on to his jacket, his gun, finally his hair and his hat. Alright, now it's finally time to begin the penning process. We'll initially go over everything with our thinnest pen, the 005. There's not a whole lot of value here in just watching me go over everything with a pen, so for this part, I'll go ahead and speed through it. So for the top of the hat, we're gonna add some minor changes before we go over it with a pen. Next, we'll go ahead and finish drawing his hair. The transition from his hair to his hat will be much more subtle once we start filling everything in with ink. As I'm adding in the extra details here, I'm still going over everything with a pencil first and then adding in the ink. To fill the larger areas with ink, I'll be using the brush pen that comes with my pigment collection. For any of the areas that are too narrow to go over with the ink brush, I'll go ahead and fill it in with the 005 pen. Going over the boundary that we created for our ink would ruin the drawing at this point, so it's better that we take our time and be precise. Alright, let's add a few drops of blood to his hair and to his gun to make our drawing look more interesting. I'm actually going to fill in his hair with my darkest gray instead of going over it with ink. That should help it stand out a bit more. Since unfortunately I'm out of my C10, I'm going to use my N9 instead. I use my N9 to go over the shadows on his skin as well. Then we'll go over the edges of his hair with some ink. You definitely want to do this with the 005 pen because the lines are going to be very thin. Again, we'll add a few drops of blood to his glove. And now we can take our time filling in his coat and part of his gun with our red Copic marker. I'm actually going to be using R24, which is my brightest red. Great, now we can start filling in the skin with E00. Oh, by the way, make sure you give your ink a chance to dry, otherwise I'd have smudge marks everywhere. Alright, now I get to try something new. I'm actually going to go over his skin and the white of his collar and his gloves using this red pastel. And it's going to help it blend in with the red on his coat and his hat a little bit more. I actually forgot to add some details to his collar, so I'll go ahead and do that now. I wish I could have used a thinner white marker for the calligraphy on his gun. Actually, I wish I had a better white marker in general. Mine kind of sucks. But just scribble something on there. I mean, it's barely visible even in the original artwork. Now, as an added effect, let's go ahead and take our red color pencil and draw lines on his glove, between his hair, and under his eyes. We'll take our 005 pen one last time and we'll add some final details to our drawing. Alright, and we are in the final stretch. The last thing we're going to do is take our red pastel and just smear it all around our character. And for now I'm going to leave a little highlight around his body, but I may cover that later on in the future. I'm just going to leave it as is for now. Alright guys, and that is it. Let's go ahead and take a look at the final results. Alright guys, that's it for today. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.